into it. Starting with the main event, the Bantamweight Championship of the World. Aljamain Sterling and Henry Cejudo. Cejudo sits at -110. Sterling comes in as the underdog and the champion at +110. Over under 4.5 rounds, -138 for the over, +138 for the under. As always, cause odds are courtesy of BetOpenly. 1% juice, no house. So every time you place a bet, you're going up against another person, not the house. And every time you win, you're taking somebody else's money. Every time you lose, you're giving it to another person. So every single dollar stays, well, 99% of the money stays within the betting community. But the Bantamweight Championship, what are you thinking on this one? I mean, it's a damn near a pick 'em. I think it's pretty well priced. There's a lot of unknowns that are going to be put into factor with Cejudo. Kind of unknowns with Aljo. I mean, he's been around for a while. He's been the Bantamweight champion for, 2 defenses now. Got the belt with a legal knee. But those defenses was a questionable split decision over Petr Yan, and then the win over TJ Dillashaw, which he was injured. It's tough to take a lot from that. I mean, he looked solid in the Petr Yan fight, but it wasn't like some amazing performance, split decision win. And the injuries, like, what do you make of that? Because it's sure he looked dominant, but TJ is also older, retired right after that, was injured. So it's tough to really gauge how good of a performance that was. Cejudo has been off for 3 years, coming back. He's been coaching for a long time with a lot of the top of the cream of the crop. So he's been around the sport. It's not like he's been sitting on the couch. But what do you think? Because I'm getting a lot of questions about this one.
Yeah, it's a dude, this is a tough one to break down because of the things you alluded to. I mean, there's kind of unanswered questions on both sides. But with Sterling, and before I go into Sterling, I think this fight is all going to come down to who can implement that wrestling more effectively. Because on the feet, like, Aljamain's good. Cejudo's proved in his last few fights when he was, really active, that his striking got really, really good, or at least a lot better than what it was when he started in the UFC. And he became a super solid fighter all the way around. Now he is, I mean, 135 is technically not his natural weight class. I mean, he is a really short guy for the division, fought most of his UFC career at 125. But Cejudo's wrestling, everybody knows the Olympic gold medal. Everybody knows that wrestling is phenomenal. And it's on a different level than basically everybody he's fought. Sterling's got good wrestling and great grappling. But the one thing I keep looking at on Aljamain Sterling's record is that when he fought Petr Yan that first time, Petr Yan landed 7 official takedowns on Aljamain Sterling. I know Petr Yan's a good grappler, but he's not like one of those crazy wrestlers by any means. Fought Cody Stamann, got taken down 3 times by Cody Stamann, taken down by Brett Johns. And there's a few other guys in the UFC who have landed multiple takedowns on him in one fight. So, I mean, if those guys are out there getting that many takedowns against Aljo, I can only imagine Henry Cejudo is going to land his fair share too. Henry does have a lower base. He's shorter. He's stocky. He's strong. I think his entries are going to be a little bit easier on a longer guy with long legs like Aljamain Sterling. And yeah, man, that makes it really interesting to me because I know if Aljo can somehow reverse position and, take Henry's back, then he'll win rounds and he'll win minutes. But like on the feet, Aljo's crafty and creative, but something about Cejudo's striking, he's just kind of hard-nosed and he's creative as well. And you look at the duration of 5 rounds. I mean, we saw Sterling kind of fading against Petr Yan in that first fight.
Yeah.
I don't think Henry Cejudo is going to fade. Yeah, he's been off a while, but say what you want about Cejudo with the cringe and the personality, and he's kind of cocky, but the guy might be the smartest mind in the UFC as far as active fighters go. I mean, the guy is brilliant when it comes to combat sports. I can see him being a coach when he's actually done fighting. I think this is a tough fight for Sterling, man. I don't know. I know Cejudo's been off and there's some unknowns, but the dude is world class at everything he does. I don't see him having any ring rust. I see him getting in there and fighting a flawless fight. I'm going to take him to win this one, man. I think he implements that wrestling and grinds out the victory, probably by decision.
Yeah, this is tough, man.
It is tough. It's so tough because I've thought back the other way too. Like Aljo's got past victory too. If Henry does want to be wrestling heavy, Aljo's longer. He's lengthy. He's so slick on the ground. So it's tough. I think it could be a really close fight, but I gotta lean Cejudo right now.
They're like kind of similar in like what they bring to the table, but like very opposite at the same time. Like Aljo wants to get it to the ground and wants to like control you on the ground, but Cejudo has the takedowns, but he's not necessarily like gonna want to just hold you down and control you, get your back or anything like that. So they have the strengths on the ground, but they're like different. And then on the feet, Aljo's got the length, he's got the volume, but Cejudo has got the power. So they're similar but very different. And I don't know how this is gonna play out. Like there's just some kind of aura around Henry Cejudo. He's like such a tough competitor. Like he just really hates to lose. And he's been so successful throughout everything he's done in his career that it makes me believe that he can come in here after 3 years off against Aljo and get a win. But also at the same time, I'm like, he's 36. Does he need to come back? Like, no. There's like some part of that makes me think, if you need something, you're going to go after it a little bit more. But maybe he's just that good of a competitor that he can come in here and have that kind of mindset. Like, I need to beat this guy to cement myself as one of the best of all time.
Yeah.
And Aljo has some kind of confidence to him too, where he's like, thinks he's bigger. He can out grapple anybody. And I know you mentioned the takedowns against Petr Yan, but let's be honest, like those were like trip takedowns. And Aljo was not really. He wanted it to be on the ground. So I mean, if he can get taken down, it is what it is. He doesn't really want to stand with Petr Yan. If Petr Yan wants to take him down, he'll take that. He'll go to the ground with him. Not a good look overall in that fight at all. I'm gonna go with Cejudo, but I want Aljamain to win for sure, and I don't want that to cloud my judgment in this one because I want Aljo to win, but I just think Cejudo is too good of a champion and too good of a competitor to come in here underprepared or not thinking like he has a very legit shot to beat Aljamain Sterling. And maybe Aljo pulls it off and can get the back and just control a guy. But he's a smaller guy too. And we saw against, like Islam versus Volkanovski, like Volk is much shorter. It's tougher to really control those guys on the ground. Like, sure, you have the longer limbs. You could throw in the body triangle, but it doesn't really measure up with getting chokes in or anything like that. It just doesn't work the same. So I'll go with Cejudo. But yeah, I'm not confident in it. I honestly don't know if I'll have a side like going into this one. Maybe just sit back and watch it, or look for some props, something like that. But I think it's perfectly priced. It's basically 50-50 in my opinion.
Yep. And you mentioned like Henry Cejudo's got this aura about him, and it's almost like there's a handful of guys in the UFC, like ever, who just have that it factor, and guys that are just like uber obsessed with winning and competition and the sport itself. Guys that come to mind, like Conor McGregor, was just almost brainwashed by this sport when he was on his run. GSP, lifelong martial artist, just dedicated still to this day of mastering his craft and student of the game. And I mean, Henry Cejudo kind of falls in that category. You listen to the guy talk about the sport and break down fights, like this dude is so obsessed with competition and winning in mixed martial arts that it's hard to get on those guys' level. And I think Cejudo's got it. And man, if he does win though, it makes things really interesting in that 135, 145 division, because regardless of Cejudo, and fought at 125, not a really fun division when he was there, but he's going to draw some eyes, especially with a guy like Volk being champion, Sean O'Malley out there. It's going to be a fun few years if he does win, but there's some good fights out there for Aljo too, so it's hard to pick a side as far as who you want to win. But Man, I think we're in for a good one on Saturday.
I could almost see this being like an out. Like if Cejudo wins, like it's an out for Aljo to like just move up to 145.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to fight Marab. Maybe give Marab the chance to take that. So I don't know. Those are all
Imagine Marab versus Henry too. That's a
Yeah,
if you're into wrestling, that's a fucking banger.
it'd be fun just to see who could prevail.
Yeah.
If anybody could have an answer for Marab, it'd be Cejudo. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be interesting.